Hello, and welcome to the TerraLex Insights Podcast, where our goal is to present multicultural perspectives by leading professionals. We believe that these perspectives will help business people and lawyers work better together. And that's what we're all about. So I'm your host, Terri Pepper, TerraLex's CEO, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Jazmina Rovi, a partner of Morgan & Morgan, which is TerraLex's member firm in Panama, and actually a firm I just visited recently and was so impressed with your standing in the community and your beautiful offices and your hospitality and really your firm's leading presence there. Jazmina was recently honored as among an elite group of trailblazers that were identified by TerraLex in honor of Women's International History Month. And so we're highlighting some of those trailblazers on the podcast. We want everyone to see what a dynamic group of women we have within the TerraLex network. So welcome to the podcast. And I want to start just by introducing and giving some of the citation about why you were selected. It's really quite impressive. And then we'll ask you some questions about some of this. So Jazmina is a leading authority in the ship finance and maritime law, not surprisingly, in Panama. And she's dedicated over 30 years to shaping Panama's maritime industry, advocating for legal reform and championing diversity and inclusion in the sector. As a partner and the head, actually, of the Ship Finance and Registration Practice Group at Morgan & Morgan, Jazmina represents ship owners, charterers, and global financial institutions, advising on Panama flag registration, ship finance structures, and vessel transactions. And she's been instrumental in drafting key Panama maritime legislation. Jazmina spearheaded Panama's negotiations with China, securing a most favored nation clause to grant preferential port rates for Panama flagged vessels, which, by the way, we heard a lot about that when I was in Panama. So it's so fascinating to know that you had such a role to play in that. And she was actually invited to China in 2017 for the historical first state visit of a president of Panama, marking a major milestone in international maritime relations. But beyond her legal expertise, Jazmina is a trailblazer for diversity and inclusion in the maritime industry and in the legal industry. And in 2023, she co-founded Morgan & Morgan's IDEA Committee, which stands for Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Support, which strives to foster an inclusive workplace free from discrimination. She also led the firm's participation in the International Forum and Declaration I Exist Too, advocating for LGBTQI plus inclusion in the maritime sector. She will speak in 2026 at the I Exist Too Forum in Malta, further cementing her role as a global advocate for diversity in shipping and maritime. So really an impressive background, and can't wait to dig into some of that. So I think really as a starting point, maybe tell us about over the last 30 years, some of the work you've done to kind of help shape the maritime industry within Panama.
Thank you, Terri. Firstly, I'm really honored to be participating in your podcast. It is my first, which tells a lot about my age. But what have I done regarding shaping the legal maritime perspective in Panama? Well, I'm happy to have done a lot. I have not done so alone, but yes, back in 2008 and since 2006, we participated. I was a representative for Morgan & Morgan in a teamwork that drafted the Panama Merchant Marine Law. Panama, is one of the top open registries in the world, facilitating international commerce. And its legislation, the background for that ship registry went back to early 1920s. And so it was it did need an upgrade. There was a lot of legislation. There were like bits and pieces all over with different ranks and sometimes contradictions or blind spots, areas that were not properly addressed. So a group of Panama lawyers, we went into working and putting all together and making it a 2.0 version. It took 2 years, and we were happy to do that. It was a great work. It included, as always, the Panama Maritime Authority, which has always been a champion in innovation and teaming up with the shipping lawyers to promote our ship registry. So I think that's one of the key roles that we played, an important role. Also, although not within shipping, um, I'm very happy that I played an important role as well in the drafting of the um, Panama International Code law. Um, and actually, it was not its first draft, but rather the reviewed version.
Hmm.
That piece of legislation came into place as a very worthwhile initiative from the academic sector in Panama. And it was missing a couple of important elements that were necessary for that law to improve private international law in Panama at the same time as it would improve Panama's role as, again, a facilitator of international commerce, which has been our nature since our country was born. That was also very nice work. Again, I did it alone. I did it with another partner of another law firm. It was a very exciting thing to do. And I don't want to bore you with that, but if
I
I
know
can
it's
mention
fascinating,
an
actually.
example, the most recent one actually, and I'm very excited about it because it's a game changer, and I am happy that Panama is again leading this topic. United Nations recently means December 2022, approved an international convention on the international effects of the judicial sale of ships. It is a very specific topic, but it is key to understanding the importance of creditors in the maritime world. And this convention grants a very strong comfort to the not only banks or financial entities granting loans or facilities to owners, but all service providers, whomever can be the holder of a credit against the vessel, is protected by this convention through a system of advanced notices and publications on publicly accessible platforms.
Hmm.
This is unknown to the world. This is absolutely new. It was a great work of the International Maritime Committee that was upstep to the United Nations. And well, this was approved just 2 years ago. There's the requirement for just once three countries have ratified this convention, it'll come into force. Um, there's over Panama is already a signatory to the convention. There's over 30 countries that have done so, but only one has already ratified the convention. We need 3 ratifications. And I'm happy to inform that Panama is already taking steps to ratify.
Oh,
So
that's great.
hopefully we're going to be one of the 3 countries that allow this convention to come into force. In respect to this convention in particular, I was also able to have a significant role in promoting its approval. I am much into the academic world as well, and I am a member of an International Institute of International Law, and I made of this convention like my topic. So I talked and talked about it until I made everyone understand in Panama how
It might
crucial
be an
it
interesting
was.
topic for a future TerraLex program. We'll have to give
Oh
that one
yes,
some.
yes, it is. It is. Hopefully this convention will come into force very soon. And I am absolutely confident that once it comes into force, the rest of the countries will just follow in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the work to get China to have the most favored nation status, and really, I mentioned I heard a lot about that. I did have an opportunity to visit the Panama Canal, and we did have some speakers, and it was really interesting how that came into play. So I know you played a role in that. So it just sounds like you've been right on the forefront of so many contemporary issues affecting maritime in your country. It's very impressive, actually. not just in your country, but all globally, which is
Thank
amazing.
you.
Yeah.
On that, uh, I was I am fortunate enough to have very close contact with ship owners. And it was actually ship owners the ones that brought to my attention the fact that other registries, not other registries, when I learned about this, it was just the difficulty that Korean owners were having when touching shiny sports, and they raised a flag and said, "Hey, there's the possibility of having a preferred access, but you need to work that from your country."
So as I mentioned, I was in Panama recently and heard so much about the negotiations with China and the most favored nation status clause. And it's so fascinating to hear your involvement, both locally within your country, but also globally. And I don't know if you're able to talk a little bit about how that came about and maybe even your visit to China, which is always such a fascinating place to visit.
Sure. Um, yes, I was one of the several champions on this topic, and in my case, it was because Korean owners raised the issue. They shared with us that their Panama flag vessels were having this increased operational cost when touching Chinese ports because Panama was not granted the most favored nation treatment in China. So the Panama ambassador in Korea was also a key to bringing this into the country's agenda. And Panama has always been very keen to uh, solving whatever obstacles and putting into place improvements to keep up with the market. And this was one of the several issues that were fundamental to Panama taking the decision to establish relationships, uh, diplomatic relationships. We had had economic relationships with China forever. And because of this, maybe was one of the latest topics that came into the list of reasons why Panama was establishing diplomatic relations with China. And I had the chance to participate very closely on specifically on the maritime sector.
Mm-hmm.
And when Panama finally took the decision to establish diplomatic relations with China, they organized a very plural committee to go with the president of Panama to that first official visit. And actually, it's a it's a bit funny there because they had already their commission in place, their committee in place, and they realized that they were short of women,
Yeah.
and that they were short in people, and they were short in women and short in maritime lawyers. And then, I've been around in the market for some time, so someone
Yeah.
said,
We've
"Jazmina,
got just the person. Yeah.
I know the person."
Amazing.
Yeah, so actually, I was invited very much like in the last minute, and I'm a very flexible person, so I said, "Oh, yes, of course, I'll be there."
Yeah.
And it was quite an experience. China, of course, has its challenges. It has its differences can impact, can cause a strong impression. Yet, of course, there is a lot of significance to establishing that relationship. It also marks for Panama, being such a small country, it marks like a level of growth and
Yeah.
participating in the big leagues. We have always had a very close relationship historically with the U.S. We have very strong cultural ties with Spain and perhaps other countries in Europe. With Asia, we have close relationships with Japan, with Korea, as well with Singapore. But China is, of course, a very strong player worldwide. So we were missing an important part of this worldwide role. So Panama finally gave that step, and it was very exciting to be there and to be greeted as an equal in such a strong country.
Yeah. That's That's great. And just to be part of history really is
Yep,
so
exactly.
magical. Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about your passion and your work in the area of diversity, equity, and inclusion. It sounds like you're quite a trailblazer there as well.
Yes, and the word passion is accurate. At our firm, we have worked for many years. I've been here for 30 years, and working on gender has like always been an issue. And we realized that we should go a step further. And LGBTIQ rights were just a must. Within our firm, we have always been very open, and it's a very safe place to work at. But we are aware that does not stand true necessarily outside of our organization.
Mm.
So we wanted to normalize the topic. We wanted to be able to, and this is the reason for my lanyard. This is something that is just part of our common day. If you want to, you can talk about it. If you don't want to, you don't have to. But it is just another day-to-day topic. It's I'd like to think of my office as a very safe place, and so I always have, if you allow me to show you my non-binary glass. I have a very nice non-binary portrait because many people are not aware of what it means or if it has any meaning at all. So it allows you to start a conversation. And it is fascinating to see how many people just want to know and are open to the idea of diversity. In Panama, perhaps it's a bit easier because Panama, as you had the chance to see in person, we were all very different from one another.
Mhm.
There is no standard for Panamanian. We
Right.
come in both sizes, colors, and types. So this is just another expression of that diversity. We are not free from LGBT discrimination and violence, sadly. So there's still a lot of work to do,
Yeah.
and just standing out there and saying, I have, for whatever reason, this important or noticeable role in a very high profile organization in Panama, and I'm wearing this lanyard. So maybe it isn't all that complicated or unusual. There's nothing to be scared about, and there's a lot of love and respect to show. So yes, I'm very passionate about that, and
Fabulous. Love. Yeah,
that's
you're
one of
showing
the
you're
things
an
that
ally. So yeah, that's fabulous. That's great.
yes, yes.
So just as we come towards the close, tell us a little bit about your goals. What's left to do that you want to do, whether personally or professionally?
Well, I'm still not close enough to my
Yeah.
retiring age. um, but of course, I am planning what I'd like to do, and being an LGBTIQ activist and ally is one of the top in the list. As I said before, I'm very much into the academic world as well. I'm pretty nerdish, so so most likely I'll also keep on research and stuff like the UN conventions that I like a lot, and I am also very much into exercising, and I really invite all professionals and women in particular to engage in whatever activity they enjoy. I enjoy Pilates, going to the gym. I recently started playing paddle. It is very important to keep close ties with your friends, especially female friends, and draining all the stress and fatigue from work.
100%. There was
Yeah.
a saying, and I don't remember the saying in Spanish, but someone that used to work at TerraLex used to say it all the time. And the saying in English translated to something like, you should always be shaking your skeleton or
Yep.
moving your
Yeah.
skeleton.
Yes. Yes.
Fabulous. Well, what's so impressive to me is that you're not just a trailblazer, but what you're doing has worldwide implications and is really making a difference and changing history. So I'm sure you'll keep doing that over time, and we'll look
Thank you,
forward
Terry.
to seeing more of what you do as time goes by. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. And as a reminder to everyone, we've been speaking with Jazmina Rovi from the law firm of Morgan & Morgan in Panama. And thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Happy to be here.